And I am Tawdra Kandle.
And happy February, everybody.
February. Woohoo! We made it through
February. This
January.
is like our kind of like the official month of romance, right?
I
Wouldn't
guess
you
it is.
say out of all the months?
I was thinking about that when I wrote the title for today's episode, but some people would say like June is the most romantic month. I guess that's the wedding month.
Yeah, but see, it depends on where you are because like
Yeah,
I've people think of weddings in May or June, but like I did
right.
weddings for 15 years here in Florida. Weddings are
Yeah,
big in October is like the biggest month for weddings. And then you
true.
have a lot of weddings in April because it's just too
Mhm.
damn hot in June.
True. True.
So
And yeah, and if you get married in the north in February, you're probably going to run into snow and ice, especially if you got married within the last week.
I just think February is kind of the month where like you see hearts everywhere and
Right.
things are like,
Yes.
pink and red and not that
Or
everyone
purple.
celebrates Valentine's Day. And there's definitely an argument to be made that it's just a commercialized holiday that was made up to get people to buy cards. But
Yeah.
I like it. I like all the little hearts and flowers. Like I actually have like, I don't know if you can see them. Whoop. I have my little
Yeah, there you
Valentine
go.
nails.
Very nice.
Yeah, I like Valentine's.
Yeah,
But I like romance. I like love
yeah.
and romance.
I like love and romance too. My family kind of has a mixed feeling about Valentine's Day. I have two daughters who don't really love it that much. They're kind of like, it's just a day with that.
Now, just out of
Yeah,
curiosity, is it the 2 single daughters or is
it
one of
is.
them Devin? Okay.
No, no, no,
I
no.
do think that when you're single, Valentine's Day has a lot of, like, pressure
Mhm.
attached to it.
Yeah,
There's a lot for guys and for girls, like, and I know
right.
there's that whole thing of, like, guys break up with girls before Valentine's Day, which my own son did last year, but it was just a timing thing. It was a timing thing. Both of them had already kind of acknowledged that it was coming. But, yeah, I think when you're single, Valentine's Day has a lot of pressure attached to it.
I think so
So,
too. Yeah, yeah. We grew up. It was very much a family holiday. My dad, gifted us things, on Valentine's Day. It was very much about celebrating as a family. I don't know that my husband and I ever really like went out and did anything. We always got together for a big family dinner. So part of that is because going out on Valentine's Day. I'll just say that um, even in the midst of pandemic and whatever, my husband and I he's had a very, very stressful few weeks, and so I wanted to take him away just for an overnight to a safe COVID safe
right.
place.
Is there a
Um,
COVID safe place nowadays?
yeah. Well, anyway, I figure if we go stay in a room and we don't interact, or if we're outside mostly. Anyway, so I really I would have loved to have done it this week, but I couldn't do it this week, timing wise. And we're going to look at going away the end of next week. Prices were
Valentine's Day.
$200 a night more.
Yeah.
200.
Yeah.
That's just insane. I was like, I don't think so. Anyway, so yeah, so I think there was always that idea of, like you go to a restaurant, you pay more for roses, you pay more
Right.
for everything. But
Yeah.
yeah, I actually do like Valentine's Day. I have some very happy memories of it, as I said, with my dad. And and even we have a joke in my family because my husband and I started dating, like our first official date was New Year's Eve, right, when I was a senior in high school. And so when Valentine's came around, his mother, because he was up at West Point and I was living in South Jersey, being in high school, that was my job.
Right.
And his mother came by and brought me a little box and a dozen roses, beautiful roses, absolutely gorgeous roses from him, that because she had said he had said he had commissioned her. And it was this really pretty gold heart locket with the little West Point insignia on it. I was like, oh
Aw.
my gosh, it's so cute. It was wonderful. I was, 18, not yet 18 years old. I was like, oh, well, I come to find out he had like a closet full of them. He had bought them when they were on.
You're kidding.
So it became the family joke. Even my son will say now, oh, if I had a closet full of, lockets.
That's hilarious.
Now, he says that it has been exaggerated. He said he only had a few and he gave one to his mom and whatever. I still have it and I still treasure it. He's like, well, it meant more to going to you, but
Of course it
and
did.
and
Of course it did.
I will say, my husband has always been a fabulous gift giver, and he has more than made up for it in the years since. But it's a nice joke, that we're like, oh, great, just pulled one out of the closet,
So
wrapped
was
it up
he like,
in toffee.
I have to find the one to marry soon because I'm running out of lockets? Like, was it like, I only have 3 left. One of these 3 girls
No,
has to
it might
work?
be, it might be, it might have been, it might have been, but, so how
Well,
do you what is romance for you? And
John and I
Valentine's?
are both very, very cheesy romantic people, which is awesome. I mean, we both get really big into surprises and cards and he is that rare guy who absolutely loves to sit down and watch a rom-com. Like, so we go all out. Like, we're all about celebrating anything. As you well know, we renew our vows every year on our anniversary and we celebrate Valentine's Day and now I celebrate our dating anniversary. He's kind of like, really? But he goes, when you get married, doesn't that like supersede that dating anniversary then goes away? But anyway, um, but no, we don't do like a huge deal. We may do dinner and we usually will like I'll get him like peanut M&Ms or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like we don't
Mm,
like go all out.
yeah,
I've definitely gotten some really nice jewelry gifts on Valentine's before.
mhm,
Um I'm kind of at a point now where like I have rings, I have necklaces, I have bracelets. There's not
yeah,
a lot that I need. And as I say
yeah.
that, like I already know that he's bought me a bracelet for Valentine's Day, so I don't
Oh,
think he listens to this. So let me just say I don't have enough. I don't have enough, honey. If you've already bought that bracelet that I'm pretty sure you bought, I don't have enough. But yeah, I just like celebrating love. I
Yeah,
think it's
yeah,
cool.
I do too.
And
No,
not necessarily in a commercial way. It doesn't have to be like a big
no,
gift or a big
no,
dinner or anything else, but I
no,
just like
I
celebrating it.
I think I ruined my husband was a cheesy romantic when we got together and early married, and I have always been the most pragmatic, like,
You've squashed it out of him.
well, maybe not quite, but because he was very romantic this Christmas, he really spoiled me and got me something that I had been wanting for quite a while, and I think he's kind of maybe trending back toward that, as
As
we
he gets
start to
older.
yeah, as we start to get back into that time of, it being more just the 2 of us and
Right.
everything, but,
Well, I think
yeah.
it's important too. My son and I were having an interesting conversation last night about love languages. And I think it's
Mm,
important too that some people's love language is gift giving. And so they find the perfect gift or they find this sentimental gift or this wonderful gift. And some people's
yeah,
love language is words of affirmation. So they're able to write you a beautiful love letter, a beautiful note or whatever. But there's other people who maybe their love language is quality time.
yeah,
And so they're purposeful about setting aside, time for you, or theirs may be touch, or it may be acts of
mm,
service. And I think sometimes we kind of get caught up in, especially like on a holiday like Valentine's Day, where it has like this set social construct around it. We get caught up in oh, if he loves me, I'll get flowers or I'll get jewelry or I'll get a candle at
yeah,
dinner.
yeah,
And it may be that this person, we did the flower bed and they were really honestly showing their love because they know you like the flower bed and that you want to see the flowers. And
true,
I think we've been kind of programmed to expect a certain thing as a show of love or romance. And there may
yeah,
be people who are fully opening their heart and showing love and romance, but it's not that traditional, here's a card and some flowers. It's something that, they made the bed or they cooked you dinner or they did. And please no, I am not saying that a guy making the bed is like the ultimate show of love. I'm just saying that like it may be that he did something or she
yeah,
did something um, to convey love that wasn't necessarily hearts and cupids.
right, that's actually one of my favorite things to write about when I'm writing about couples in romances is to say, have them do unorthodox things.
Right.
Bringing roses is fine, whatever, but, and it's great, and I love flowers, I really do, but, I will say that I would rather have hyacinth or tulips than I would even roses, although I do love roses. My son brought me beautiful roses this year for my publishing anniversary, which were probably some of the nicest roses I've had in years. They just some roses either stay like really tight or they
Right.
bloom beautiful. These were the most beautiful blooming roses. So yeah, I do enjoy them, and I love pink roses.
Yeah.
Yes, I have a visitor. Sorry.
Oh, hello.
Our visitor today on an open dialogue is Lenny. It was about
I was on a Zoom with the all of the Soul Sisters authors the other night from Soul Sisters at Cedar Mountain Lodge, and Tess Thompson's cat
Mm.
just kept walking back and forth in front of the screen and like blocking tests. And at one point, her tail curved like perfectly right around
Aw,
Tess's head, and a reader screenshotted it and caught it with like
oh,
Mittens standing there with Mittens' tail around Tess's
aw.
head. It was a cool shot.
Well,
But
the hottest new, trend is speaking of which, is, monkey tail beards. Have you seen this?
I have seen
Right?
them.
It goes like this,
Yes.
just like so that, maybe Tess is just starting a new thing, cat tail beard.
I jokingly asked John if he was gonna do that, and he looked at me like I was crazy,
No,
and I was like, "Please,
yeah,
no, I'm not serious."
yeah, I showed it to Clinton. He was like, "Oh, that is just no, 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 no." Yeah.
So,
So romance. So, why
speaking
we
of
yeah,
romance,
speaking of romance, we do tend to like romance, you and I, which sounds funny, but I mean, we like
romance is our job.
it is our job. It is our, bread and butter and our, something that we enjoy talking about, and exploring. So,
Why do you think people like romance novels?
oh, I think everybody loves a happy ending. I don't know. I think most
Most.
I don't know, most people, yeah.
Most people,
Yeah,
yeah.
most people like a happy ending. We like it to be, um, neat and tidy, and we give romance novels a lot more latitude, and maybe romance, movies too, a lot more latitude when it comes to reality and happy endings and so on than I think
Well,
we
and
do.
you and I kinda talked about that in some ways, it's almost unhealthy, the things that we
Right.
allow the
Yeah.
hero or heroine to get away with, or the things that we'll root for in a
Yeah.
romance novel or a romance movie. But, I just for me personally, I like the idea of love being able to conquer all. And
Right.
we know that in real life, unfortunately, sometimes it
It's true.
can't. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, the
Yeah.
reality is that sometimes you can love someone with everything in you, and that doesn't necessarily mean that's a healthy situation for you to be in, or vice
True.
versa. They can love you and not necessarily be a healthy thing for you. But I think in romance novels, we're able to kind of find that love conquers all, that if someone loves you, they're going to love you no matter what, no matter how, above everyone else, above everything else, and, that's kind of a warm and fuzzy feeling. I think too, we like to see people overcome adversity and overcome obstacles and end up together, and
Yeah.
again, I think it gives us hope.
I think so. I think so too. Um, it was funny because I was thinking this morning. I finished reading a book last night, and the timing of it was really crazy for me. I think the people met in like October, whatever, and it ended with, on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day with him proposing to her. I'm like, wow, that was fast, when I sat back. But you know what? I also said, well, it's a book. It's fine. I think as long as we have a healthy respect for what is real and what isn't.
Well,
Okay.
I think sometimes in fiction, we do kind of speed up the timeline because you want it to
We
get wrapped up in a
we
book. Like,
yeah,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, it's like, obviously, if they had more time, this would have developed over a longer period of time,
Right.
but,
Right. Right.
sometimes the entire
Yeah.
novel may take place over a week and you want them together at the end. So I
It's
do think we kind of suspend reasonable time frames sometimes in a book. Now, when it's really quick, I have a hard time with that sometimes. Like, if they meet each other and 3 days later they're engaged, sometimes I'm kinda like, "Eh, okay."
right.
But I do think we suspend time
We
in
do. Yeah.
fiction.
I think it's why I've enjoyed over the years, spreading a love story out over 3 books. I've enjoyed that.
Yeah,
I did that with my Keeping Score series, and I just did it last year with my Diagnosis Love. It was nice that I didn't have to have it all wrapped up. As a matter of fact, it was good that they ended 2 different books, and and I mean, it was good for me. Maybe
right,
the readers
right.
not so much, but it was good for me. It made me feel good. It made me feel like I had, really given their love story a lot of, depth and believability. So,
I think that in a story, when we're developing a romance story, we need that spark to
mhm,
happen rather quickly. We need
right.
that there's something special here, or there's something happening here, or there's something I wanna pursue. And then we can
Yeah.
take our time over the course of a series developing that love, or seeing where it will go, but I do think we kind of rush that spark in order to get the story going.
Yeah,
So
I would agree. I One of the best things that I have seen, read, experienced romance-wise in the last few weeks has been on HBO Max, Anna Kendrick's Love Life.
I've heard
It
about it,
was
but I haven't seen
oh,
it.
absolutely fabulous. Really, probably the best thing, one of the best things I've seen on TV for quite a while. And it was, again, it was a series. So you had her starting out at one point at one age, and it really took her over, I think it probably took her almost over a decade, and explored, each episode was named after whatever relationship they were covering in that. But by the time you got to the end, you've just felt immensely satisfied. It was like having a really good piece of rich chocolate cake that was made
Oh,
with
that's nice.
really good chocolate, not just like the cheapo stuff.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
like the not
Like
not not a
Ghirardelli.
sweet, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah, it was good. It was good. So I do highly recommend that if you're looking for a really satisfying and intelligent love story. Um, I do recommend that because it was also good to see how what she experienced and what she learned informed her ultimate happy ending.
Right.
So, yeah.
I really like, series both, on screen and on page, series that, like, continue to follow the characters and develop the characters, like, that's one of the things I love about Outlander. Like, this I mean,
Yes.
the hero and heroine are now in their 50s, and you see, like, all of this lifetime of experiences that has happened to them and
Yeah.
ways that their relationship has changed and grown, and so I really like doing that. Whereas,
Yes.
like, my last release took place over 12 hours.
Yes. Oh, that's very true. Yeah,
Um,
that's
and
very
it's funny
true.
because I originally had kind of mentioned that in the description of the book, and someone it may have even been you, I don't know, but someone said, "You probably wanna take that out because people are gonna look at that and say, 'How does this entire book take
Right,
place over 12 hours? It can't go very deep.'" Um, and, I was fortunate in that the hero and heroine had a history,
right.
so we were able to kind of establish that history in the beginning, so you it wasn't
Yeah.
like they were just meeting.
No, yeah.
And the things that were happening kind of had already been set in motion by things that happened prior to the book beginning. But yeah, the entire novel takes place over 12
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah,
So,
and I agree with you. When it's a second chance like that, they don't have to tell each other their stories. I mean,
right.
she kind of had to tell she had to tell him where she'd been in the how many years had it been? 5?
It had been 12. Yeah.
12. Oh,
12
12.
years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
12 years. Hmm. I guess I
Yeah.
knew that in one way, but in another way, it didn't seem like it's been that long. Yeah, and he had to tell her
Right.
because they both had glimmers of what had happened because they are from a small town, but
Right. And this
anyway.
book is Whiskey Flight, by the way. I would be
Yes.
remiss if I didn't name it. It's Whiskey Flight, which is volume 1, and Cedar Creek Suspense, is the book we're discussing. And you just had, which I feel like you kind of like always have a new release out because you write so much more than I do. But you just
No.
had a release come out. What was your last release?
Um, I'm not sure. Actually, in January, I'm doing my, 1 book
Oh,
per
you're doing,
holiday. Right,
yeah.
right. So, actually, my New Year's one came out on right around the beginning of January, and my Valentine one is live on my website right now, and it will be released through KU on Tuesday the 9th.
So tell
So
us a little bit more about this because I know about it, but there we may have
right.
listeners who do not. So tell us what you're doing this year. I think it's really cool concept.
I have a long-running series called Love in a Small Town, that's a, 13-book, at this point, series ongoing, and I wanted to do, more in that, but I really didn't want to do just 1 book, so, for each holiday, New Year's, Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, Easter, so on, um, I'm releasing a novella that is a standalone. Some of them are about completely new characters. The first one, the New Year's Eve one, was completely new characters. The Valentine's Day one is about a guy who was a side character in a previous book, the little brother of one of the main characters. Um, but anyway, they're standalone, complete love stories, happily ever after or happily for now. Although mostly, if they're happily for now, they have an epilogue that shows them being happily ever after,
Okay.
and it's just fun. It's just kind of bringing in characters who I wrote about maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago and updating them too,
Like
because
catching up.
they wander in and out of the book, and so it's been fun to say, oh well, here's Sam, and this is what they're doing now, and they had
That's
twins.
cool.
Yeah, so it is. It's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it. So there'll be one every month except for August because nothing happens in August.
What do you have in June?
In June, I have prom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
my big fat prom date in a small town. May is May Day.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a fun one. And then July, 4th of July. September is Fall in Love. October, of course, Halloween, Thanksgiving, and so on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and
That's a lot of fun. That's a very cool concept. I like that you're doing that.
I'm enjoying it. You know, it's just it's also good for me. And they're like super tropey. You know, like this there was the one that's coming out on the 9th, which is already live on my website, is fake boyfriend, fake girlfriend. And I thought, oh, I don't know how, but it is. It's fun, and how they fall in love. And again, it happens over the course of a few days, but they have this history because they've known each other. They've been each other's fake. You know, he's a country music star. She's an actress just about to make it big. She needs his stability, and he's a really solid guy, and he needs her, just to give him a
Free
little bit of a
spirit.
happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fun. It's good. So yeah, I
That's fun. Very,
yeah,
very fun.
yeah, it is.
Very cool. All right. So
Yes,
that's what you have coming out
that's what I have coming up.
next.
Yes, and Whiskey Flight is available, and
Whiskey Flight is already out, and I am
yep.
working on the next volume in Cedar Creek Families. So
Yay!
that, unless I just throw it against the wall and give up on Piper, that will be the next book
No,
out.
not giving
So
up on Piper. Not giving up on.
Piper, you know what's really funny? What I've realized, I would say more so in the last 2 weeks, Piper is probably the least like me of any heroine that I've written, and I find it very hard to kind of like.
Yeah,
It takes me a little while when I'm writing to get in the groove of who she is, because sometimes I'll write something and then I'm like, no, that's not what she would say, or no, that's not how she would react. So it's not really instinctive, I guess you would say, to know what she would do. I really have to think about the character and who she is and how she would react. Um, and so it's funny, I've kind of done more personality profiling with
mm,
her than I ever have with every other heroine. I felt like I knew who they were, and I just it was just automatic to me to know how they would react. It was like knowing you, or knowing,
mhm,
Heather, or knowing someone
right.
else, that I knew kind of what they were going to do.
Yeah.
And with Piper, she's very unpredictable. And
Mhm.
so
Ex and maybe explain a little bit about who Piper is. I
okay.
know who she is because if you've read any of your books,
Yeah.
you might
Yeah,
remember
so
who
I
she
have a
is.
series called Cedar Creek Families, and in the first book in that series, Building Fences, there is a woman who, is in search of her birth parents, and she ends up, through a series of odd circumstances, stolen cars and pranks and things like that, she ends up, meeting this family that lives on this huge horse farm in Cedar Creek, the fictional small town where the series is set. And the daughter of the owner of that horse farm is Piper. And Piper is, I think the word that's used the most to describe her in the book is firebrand. Like,
Yeah.
she says what she thinks. She does not have a filter. She
Yeah.
says what she wants. She doesn't, you know, pussyfoot around with, oh, well, what will they think if I say this? Or would this bother someone if I said that? That's just
No.
not her. And very, she is very emotional, but emotional in like a fiery way. You know what I mean? Like, she blows very easy. And
Yeah.
so putting her in a situation where she has to kind of grow up a little bit, and has to start thinking about other people's feelings a little bit, and has to kind of examine the way she relates with other people is proving to be a challenge. So, but a fun challenge.
It is. It's good for you. It's good as an author to do that, to stretch. And when I think of Piper, I think first prickly. She just
Yes.
seems very prickly, you know.
Yes.
She just because you have such empathy for the main character in Building Fences that her reaction to that character from really the get
From
go,
the very start.
even
Yep.
before she knows who she is,
Right.
she is. It's rough. And the other thing
Well, I
I
think
think
one of the
of,
things is because Piper is so fiercely protective. She's
yes,
very protective of the people close to her. She's very protective of her family and her
yeah,
friends, and she's almost like a bulldog in that way, that she
yeah,
is on the lookout for anyone who would hurt or harm or betray her family, and she is going to prevent it at all cost. And I think
right,
that's where some of that feeling towards Caroline, the main character in Building Fences, um, Piper from the very beginning is like, I don't know you. You're an outsider. I'm worried about why you're here. I don't trust you, and I'm going to do all I
right.
can to repel you and get rid of you.
And she comes across as a spoiled brat. She really
Yeah,
does. But the
yeah,
really cool thing is taking a character like that, and we've only seen her from everybody else's point of view. We've seen her through Caroline's eyes. We've seen her through, her father, her friends, so on. Now we get to see her through her own point of view,
right,
and we
right.
know that things can be a little different. When you're talking
Yeah,
about somebody,
it's
everybody,
challenging too, just from an author standpoint. Like I'm almost like nervous writing it because I know that I'm writing a character that already people don't like. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Mhm.
starting the book with a heroine that people already have
Yeah,
in their head that they don't like. And
yeah,
I don't it's definitely not my intention to try to make her likable. It My intention is just to tell her story, and that may make some people have more empathy or understanding for her and it may not. But that's kind of a daunting task of
yeah.
knowing that going in. And didn't you took a villain and made the villain a hero one time, didn't you?
Yeah, I've done that more than once, but specifically, in my Perfect Dish, the guy who had been the, yeah, villain, for lack of a better word, he was the guy who had broken up very publicly with the main character in the first book. We find out that one of the reasons he did that was because, um, he was in love with her roommate, and that's so. Then the second and third book are about what happens with them, and it's really hard because there was no cheating, which I know those are hard rules for a lot of people, but we find out he actually did the noble thing, and we find out why he did it. We find out that he had a lot of backstory and trauma that people didn't really understand, because he hadn't said anything. But he was somebody who a lot of people really didn't like, and I by the end of the second book, I was just totally like, he's my favorite.
Well, I
So
just
yeah,
think it's so important for us to remember that everyone has a story, and
yeah,
their story may not justify their actions, and it may not make their actions okay,
right,
but there is a reason that they are the way they are.
yeah,
And I think,
absolutely,
I like to find out, a character story and find out, well, what's going on? Like, why is this character the way they are? So
yeah,
we'll see
yeah,
how that plays out. So it's been interesting because it's allowed me to do a lot of research
mhm,
on like uh, different personalities. Like I've looked at like enneagrams to kind of look at, Piper, and I've looked at different personality tests and kind of done some research on who she is so that I can kind of know her better and know how better she would react in situations. So which I love. You know that I love doing research.
right,
We've
mhm.
both talked about that before.
Yes, yeah, yeah. We had fun with one of your research topics for Whiskey Flight
We
back
did.
back this last fall.
And it's funny because as more and more people are reading Whiskey Flight, a lot of people have messaged me or written me and asked me about the whiskey, and about,
Mhm,
either telling me that they learned something about whiskey through this book, or asking me if I'm, very passionate about whiskey. And it's funny because you and we were at a book conference,
mhm.
and I had been talking to you about the fact that I needed to learn more about whiskey in order to write this, and that I kind of wanted to know a little bit more about it. And I knew that this character, Danny, was very, very passionate about whiskey, that this was part of her identity and part of her personality. And I wanted her to give the hero a tasting, like a whiskey tasting, and try to share her passion with him. And you and I just happened to find ourselves sitting at a table with a
Very unplanned,
gentleman
very unplanned.
who is would you say a bourbon aficionado? kind of
Yes.
like an expert.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
Yeah.
someone who belongs to organizations that are dedicated to bourbon and who goes to events that are dedicated to bourbon. It really knows a lot about the subject. And how fortuitous that
Mm.
we happened to be sitting with him. And he was so generous with his time and his knowledge. And he basically did like an impromptu tasting for us, throwing together like, oh, we have cashews and we have raspberries and we have chocolate and we have
Yeah.
and gosh, we just learned so many fun things. But I have to tell you,
Yeah.
I have a few friends who, of course, from being in weddings for so long and dealing with the catering world, I have a few friends who are sommeliers and who are like wine experts. And they've tried so hard to teach me. I am not a person who can smell of a glass of wine or sip a glass of wine and go, oh my gosh, I smell hints of cherry. And it seems there is some fresh earth and a bit of a tobacco flavor. I just don't get it. It just tastes like wine. I can tell when it's dry or if it's
Right.
sweet, but like otherwise it just tastes like wine. And I have to tell you, when we started this tasting, and there was a third person there. Mel was there with us tasting, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And this gentleman would have us like, sniff, and you guys would be like, "Oh, I smell like leather sofa," or something ridiculous, and I'm sitting there like, "How the hell? I just smell whiskey. How are you smelling leather? Where are you finding tobacco?" And you both were so, like, certain about it, and I'm sitting there like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna look like the biggest idiot because 'cause I'm the one who wants to know about this. I'm, like, the one who's writing about it, and I'm like, "I smell bourbon." And he's like, well, try this, close your left nostril and breathe through your right. And you're like, oh, now I smell, mint cologne or
Honey,
something. And I'm just like,
honey. One of
yes,
them was spelled honey, one
honey.
of them
Now
was
I
spelled
smell
yeah.
honey. And I'm like,
Mhm.
I still smell bourbon. And then he's like, now you need to take it and put it on your tongue and just let it rest there and then breathe through your nose as it's on your tongue. And you or Mel one was like, "Oh, caramel." And I'm like, "Oh my god, this tastes nothing like caramel. Have you guys ever had caramel? Like, really, seriously." So, yeah, I don't get it. I totally do not get that. Now, I loved that you guys were able to do all that. I don't know that I believe that you were able to smell all that. I think you were just
We're
saying it
you think
so
we're
that you
faking
didn't
it.
sound stupid. But yeah, my hat's off to all of you who have olfactory senses, like the like taste and smell, and you can detect grass in wine because I can't. It's just wine.
I, I never could really taste too much in wine, but I did a wine tasting. Actually, they came to my house. They said I'd won it, and so I had, like, 6 girlfriends over, and the guy came and just, like, he would have just let us keep tasting wine, like, all night. It was so much fun. But he was really good about saying, "Okay, I'm not a Chardonnay fan." And so he was really great about, saying, "Okay, I understand that. Now try this Chardonnay." I was like, "Yep, nope, don't like this one." And he said, "Now try this one." And I went in totally jaded, and I was like, "I like this one." He said, "Yes, this is a steel cask. What you don't like are the oak flavors in the Chardonnay." So now if I ever see a steel cask Chardonnay, I will enjoy
Right,
it, but I do
right.
not play role like otherwise. And I never really but he taught me how to pick up
Those
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 yes,
tones,
those
those
tones, those
notes. Yes.
floral yeah, floral bouquet. So yeah.
Yes. Well, I will say, after we did that, because that was focused on bourbon
Right.
specifically, and I
Mhm.
also wanted to kind of expand the character's knowledge.
Right.
And so after I did that, I went over and spent some time with author Robbie Cox, who, if any of you know Robbie or follow Robbie, he is like pretty much always has Jameson whiskey nearby. And so we had kind of set up that we were going to be doing this the deeper I got into the book. And so he had collected, like, gosh, there must have been 15 different whiskeys, Japanese and Irish and Canadian rye and Scottish without the E and like all these different things. And so I went over to do a tasting with a designated driver, of course. And it's so funny because like they poured the first glass and if any of you know Robbie and the Cox tribe, you know, this is a this is a drinking crowd, okay? And I'm not that much of a drinking crowd, and so they pour the first glasses, and, like, they're pouring, and I was like, "Dude, if we're doing 15, like, I need, like, this
Oh,
much.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
no way." So, I will say that although I still could not smell it and go, "Oh, tobacco. Yep, that
Mm.
right there is a cigar," like, I still couldn't do that, but I definitely could tell the difference in
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. I was trying not
Get
to cough and
all
try not to cough, and
choked up all over the whiskey
it was
flavors?
I was just I can put I'm so empathetic that I could actually, like, feel you in with
You
the
could feel the burn, the
yeah,
Kentucky hug.
feel it, yeah.
Um, well, so I definitely could tell the difference in these. I would I definitely like, as we tasted them, it was very interesting to me that different whiskeys would burn in different places. Like, some, like, burned up here in your nasal cavities, and some
Right.
was in the throat, some were in the
Mhm.
chest. So
Yeah.
it was really fascinating to me. I mean, I did learn a lot about whiskey. I actually, um, when I was in college, I, was out with my brother and some of his friends one night, and we
Mhm.
were at a huge bonfire in a field, and I was freezing and begging to go, and one of them gave me a bottle of whiskey and was like, "Here, drink this and it'll make you warm," and
Mhm.
I drank enough whiskey that I didn't care that I was cold. It never did make me warm, but I kept sipping it, hoping, and I finally got to the point where I didn't care that I was cold. But that was about my knowledge of whiskey prior to that, was just that,
Yeah.
"Here,
Yeah.
drink this."
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
learned a lot about it. What is something that you feel like you've researched and really learned a lot about with writing? Because I think it's
It's
definitely one of the
really
coolest parts
hard.
of our job is the research and being able to kind of, like, delve into different careers or different hobbies or
Yeah,
passions.
definitely, and I think I've done some, I think I research place more than I do, I do a lot of online research,
Mhm.
and one thing I did research pretty extensively last year before I released the Diagnosis Love, books were, naturopath medicine. So
Yeah.
that was really, very eye-opening and different, uh, processes that naturopaths use in treating patients and specifically, oncology patients. So
Mhm.
that was really, really fascinating. I enjoyed that quite a bit. But a lot of place, as I said, if I'm gonna write about some place that really exists, I like to go and just stay there and spend some time and visit and so on. So, that's probably my favorite
I
thing.
know there's supposed to be a website, and I never have used it, but I know some authors do, where you can go on and pretty much put in, like, a city somewhere, and if there's someone there who's from that city or who's been there, they'll answer and, like, tell you, like, the name of local pubs, or,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
the name of, you know what I mean? So that you can have kind of a more authentic experience. But I love actually going. And when I wrote, like, the novel that I'm working on right now is actually set on the island of Puerto Rico, and I
Ooh.
had gone there and spent time at this, like, bed and breakfast slash horse farm there, and it was such
Oh,
a
yeah.
fascinating location that I was like, "Oh, I have to set a book here." And I had thought at the time I would be able to go back and spend more time there when I got ready to work on the book, but COVID being what it
Sadly.
is, yeah,
Yeah.
I actually looked, like, 2 weeks ago, I looked and was like, "Well, maybe it's not so bad there and I can go there." And, like, whenever I put in "travel to Puerto Rico," it brought up the CDC warning that their numbers are really high, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah, yeah, no, I can understand that. It's always nice though to, it's nice that we live in the age where we can kind of
yeah.
project ourselves in a place, go to a museum, do
Well,
something
the
like
internet has, so much
yeah,
information, it's
yeah,
incredible.
well, and that's what I mean, that you can virtually go to a museum
Yeah.
and do that. Um, yeah, that's been very helpful. I was trying to think what else I have done as far as research, that has been, um sorry, there's noise in the background here. Um, um, I was trying to think there was something that I had oh, beer. I wrote under another pen name. I wrote about a brewery in South Jersey, And so I was able to look them up and do some different research with them, and asked my cousin to, be my footman up there and kind of do
"Go
the
try this.
work on
Go
the
do
ground.
this."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I said, "Tell me what's the best place to go to do thus and such." And he was like, "Oh, yeah, I can tell you about this. I've been here. I've done this." So it was really good, and follow them on Facebook, and actually named the brewery right after them. So,
Very cool.
yeah, it
Very
is.
cool.
It's
Oh,
good.
I think we've actually talked about it before on this podcast, so I won't go into it too much, but, when I was writing Maggie and,
Mm,
um, Dax, the hero in that book, he and his family have a huge cattle ranch, and so I
mhm,
had gone to the Deseret Ranch here in Central Florida and learned so much. I filled an entire spiral notebook that day
mm,
touring that ranch. There was so much that I didn't know about cattle and about ranches and about all the different ways. Like, this is one of the largest private ranches in the United States. And there was so much I didn't know about what they do beyond cattle, that they farm fish and that they
mm,
rent out plots of their land for, like, the John Deere Tractor Company comes and uses plots of their land to test their large farm equipment, and there's, all these, like, soil things and water things, and so I didn't realize that most of the cowboys working on that ranch have master's degrees in
wow.
water management or in soil management or in grass, like all these different components of what goes into the farm that these cowboys have to know and have to be able to manage and have expertise in, and just so many different components of running that ranch and the different things that are done, down to the fact that, like, they go out with like, a cowboy goes out in the morning on his horse with a group of dogs to work the cattle, and, like, when the puppies are born, the families on the ranch, like,
Mm,
the workers' families train the puppies and socialize them and train them so that, that they're ready to go when they reach an age, and so it was really fascinating, and I just,
yeah.
I love, like, I have found out through Becca Syme's class that like, inputting information,
Mhm.
is my top Clifton strength,
Oh,
and I do, like, I love research, and I love
yeah,
diving down. I have to be careful because I spend so much time in the rabbit hole that I don't get the writing done,
yeah.
but, I love research and being able to kind of, like, learn something new or find something new or be able to understand a character better. A lot of the stuff that I found out at that ranch that day never made it on the page, but
Mm,
it definitely helped me understand who Dax was, the hero, and kind of understand more about, like, what his daily life was like and
yeah,
what his, motivations would be and kind of some of the stressors that he dealt with on a daily basis. Even though they didn't make it in the book, it colored who the character was.
right, right, and you never know when it's gonna come back and offer you something, another.
Right,
Yeah, so, yeah. Oh, that's great,
right.
yeah. I'd say I think really, some of my favorite research is done sitting at my kitchen table, watching football. So, my research season is about to be over, so
Oh,
that really means, yeah, it's tough, it's a tough one, but, and I think even things like, cooking, I consider that research as well when I'm
right.
doing different things, so yeah,
You
yeah.
have a series that's about a chef, right? Is it Vampire Chef?
No, he is not a vampire.
Okay.
Well, he is a vampire, but she is the chef. So, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, so that is, yeah, but and actually, I do write a lot of people who cook or bake, I think just because it gives me an excuse to, include a little bit of food in there, so
There
so
you go. Food's
yeah,
always good.
it is,
So,
it is.
all right. Well, we would love to hear from you guys who are
Yeah,
listening.
sure.
We would love to know what you do for Valentine's Day, if
Mhm.
anything. Is this just like another day on the calendar to you, or is it something that you enjoy? And we would also love to know um, if you learn things in the books that you read. Is there a book that you've read where you suddenly, like, learned all about something new that you didn't know before? I know, like, I learned in Outlander, I've learned so much about history. I knew nothing about the Jacobite Rebellion, and I ended up taking a trip to Scotland and going to some of the battle sites just from the interest that was spurred from that book. So we'd love to hear from you guys. What have you learned in a book that made you wanna go and look up more about it or that taught you something new? Is there
Yeah.
anything else you'd like to ask them?
Oh, no, I think just, what are you looking forward to reading romance-wise? What's
Yeah,
you're
definitely,
excited
we'd love to hear that.
about? Yeah, I think that would be fun too. We
So
definitely want you to share with us.
yes.
This
Thank
is
you so much for being with us. Thanks for
Thank
listening to
you.
and watching an open dialogue. And if you would like to reach us or find out more about any of the books that we discussed, you can find me at violethowe.com.
And you can find me at tawdrakandle.com. Also, remember that now that we're on YouTube, you can and should subscribe to our
Yes,
channel so that
subscribe to our channel.
you'll get a little ping when we have a new episode going out.
Yes.
So
And if you're listening, then definitely, subscribe and keep listening. We appreciate you as well.
we do.
And we're also on all the regular social media platforms if you want to reach out to us or you want to find us. If you'd like to comment on this video, you can comment on YouTube
Mhm.
or we have a Facebook page, an
Great.
Open Dialogue One, and you can find this video on that page. And we'd love to hear from you in the comments there.
We certainly would. And we're also, on Instagram and Facebook and
All the regular social
all our
media
yes,
spots.
as you said, our social media spots. Yep.
Yeah.
Are
All
you on
right.
Tik are you on TikTok yet?
No, I am not. I can't dance. No, I'm kidding.
I know that's not true.
No, I have to, there's some social media platforms that I have to leave to my kids. So they can have TikTok
Good.
and Reddit, and I'll stay on Facebook and Instagram.
There you go. Sounds good. Oh, I hope everybody has a wonderful February and a very happy Valentine's season, no matter what you do and how you celebrate it.
Yes.
Celebrate
Lots
love.
of love and romance for all of you.
That's right. Lots of love.
All
Thanks so
right.
much. Bye.
Bye.